Good evening, all of you. Good evening, everybody. Good evening, students. Good evening, online students. The students which have joined us on the portal. Students, you may switch on your cameras. Also, good evening, students to which have joined us on the YouTube. So this is a optional strategy session, students. Myself, I'm Iqbal Singh. I'm faculty for Political Science and International Relations optional paper at Vajiram and Ravi. And we have decided to hold this strategy session for you, in which I will like to address all your queries and doubts regarding the Political Science and International Relations optional paper. I'm sure, students, you are already aware that optional is a make or a break choice in your civil services journey. If you want to get selected in this particular examination, a very big role is played by political science and international relations optional, or whichever optional you take up. Your optional paper will always play a very important role and will determine your selection. The optional papers, they would account for 500 marks in your mains examination. So definitely what optional choice you make in civil services will be a very determining factor in your selection as far as civil services is concerned. And there are multiple optional choices which are there. For example, there is PSIR, there's anthropology, there's history, there's mathematics, geography. Multiple choices are there and you can choose any one of them. And today in this particular workshop with you, in this session, I would like to address all your doubts and queries, which I'm sure you must be having doubts and queries regarding the PSIR option, Political Science and International Relations optional paper. So I will try and address all your doubts, all your queries in this particular session. I will try to make it as interactive as possible. If you have any doubts and queries, you also can chip in, and I would like to clarify all of that. And basically, I would like to tell you why PSIR is one of the most preferred choices in civil services. I'm sure you are already aware that PSIR is one of the most preferred choices for students preparing for civil services. The success rate of this optional paper is also extremely high. The reports of UPSC, which has been given by the official body, by the commission UPSC, also does suggest that majority of the candidates getting selected and majority of the candidates writing the mains examination have opted for political science and international relations. So I will briefly discuss with you why this optional paper is so popular and what are the reasons that it has such a high success rate. Then I'll also briefly, students, I will have a discussion with you that what is the syllabus, overview of the syllabus, both PSI paper 1 and paper 2, briefly I will discuss with you. And then finally, I will also discuss with you that while preparing for this optional paper, what things you must keep in mind. What should be your strategy? What should be your approach while preparing for political science and international relations? So these are certain things which I'd like to discuss with you in this particular discussion, and it would help you make a reasoned choice in order to choose optional paper, a reasoned choice with respect to choosing optional in the civil services. So let's begin the discussion, students. First, let's discuss why this PSR optional is so popular. What is the reasons for its popularity? Why choose political science and international relations as optional? So first of all, students, whenever you take up any optional paper, not just PSIR, any optional, a lot of you I know, and I do talk to a lot of you. A lot of you would approach me and with this similar doubts of which optional paper I am confused. I like this paper also. I like this subject as well. I'm confused which optional paper should I take. So students, I always suggest my students that while choosing your optional paper, you must keep two things in your mind. Which are these two things? First is, and the foremost, is your interest. You must have academic interest in that subject because you have to live with this subject for the next 2 years. You have to understand. At minimum 2 years, I'm saying. You'll have to live with that subject. Day and night, you'll have to read that subject. You'll have to excel in that particular subject. It is not a college exam, students. It's not a college exam. What happens in colleges and universities? Our objective is just to pass. Our objective is somehow I would get 50%, 60%, I'll get the degree, that my job is done. It's not a college exam. It's a competitive exam. And in this particular exam, only those students would succeed and get the job, the ones who are most meritorious, the ones who are better than others. So therefore, you are in a race here. So whatever optional paper you would take, you'll have to do best in that optional paper. So the first and foremost, instead of listening to others or even listening to me and listening to faculties and your friends and other strategies which you would come across, or listening to toppers, you should ask yourself this question. Look into the mirror and ask yourself, whether do you have academic interest in that particular subject or not? If you have academic interest, then only you will be able to survive the grill of the optional. Then only you will be able to do the syllabus with keen interest. Then only you'll be able to do whatever is required to excel in that optional paper. So first and foremost, criteria should be your interest. If you are interested in that particular subject, then only think about taking up that particular subject as your optional. Second, students, I would always tell my students, second criteria should be the winnability criteria. That, you these days, I've been listening to politicians in Haryana. There are elections going on, and they had distributed seats, tickets of different political parties, and all leaders are saying we have distributed tickets on winnability criteria. The candidates who are going to win, we've given tickets to them to contest an election. It's for you also, it's a game-changing event. If elections are game-changing events for politicians, the exam, civil services exam, is a game-changing event for you. So you also have to be pragmatic as well. You can't be just idealist or only making decisions on basis of emotions. You also have to be pragmatic. You also have to be strategic in your choices. So pick up that optional paper which has a highest success rate. That should be your second criteria. High success rate. If there's a optional paper which is a very high success rate, then certainly there must be something good about it. Certainly there must be something exceptional about it, that students are excelling and getting selected by choosing up that optional paper. So these two criteria should always be in your mind. First is your own keen academic interest, and second is the success rate, whether the optional paper, that particular subject there is a possibility that you may be interested in a particular subject, but it may not have a very high success rate. It may not be doing very well in the exam. So that also, then your chances to qualify would also sink with that paper. So you have to understand, second criteria is also very important, success rate of that particular paper. So these two you have to keep in mind, and on the basis of that you can make a choice, and it is a make or break choice as a civil services aspirant. And now coming back to PSIR again, students, why choose PSIR optional? Maybe if you have academic interests, what is political science and international relations all about? A detailed study of Indian political system, a detailed study of political values, political concepts is done in PSIR paper. You all must have seen the preamble of the Constitution of India. In the preamble, multiple political values are mentioned: equality, fraternity, socialism, justice, republic, democracy. These are very important political values. A detailed study of these political values is done in PSIR paper. A detailed study of Indian political system is done in PSIR paper. A detailed study of philosophies and ideologies and viewpoints of the great philosophers of India and also the Western world is done in political science paper. Then another paper in PSIR paper 2 is entirely based on international relations, international politics. If you pick up the newspaper, I'm sure you would realize that a major part of the newspaper is also about international relations. And in the GS syllabus also you have IR topics. So half of PSIR is international relations. If you have keen interest in these topics, Indian foreign policy, United Nations, how international politics operates, if you really get fascinated when Dr. Subramaniam Jaishankar speaks on behalf of India in the UN General Assembly, if you get goosebumps because of that, then that means you have keen interest in this subject. And that means you should go for it. That's your first one reason why people choose it, because as aspiring civil servants, naturally students have interest in domestic politics and also in international politics. And domestic politics and international politics, these are two key ingredients of the PSIR syllabus. And that is the reason why students naturally get attracted towards PSIR. They develop interest, and majority of the students, they pick up this optional. Second reason, students, why it is taken up, why choose PSIR, is the great deal of overlapping which it has with the GS papers. A PSIR student is bound to do well in GS papers also, is bound to do well in essay paper as well. A PSIR candidate will get a competitive edge over his or her competitors in the examination. Our PSIR students, right now, this week exam has been held, and I'm quite happy that my students must have done very well in GS papers also, because there were questions in GS papers, GS paper 1, 2, 3, and 4, which were directly related to the syllabus of a PSIR, and students must have had, I'm sure students must have done very well, and they would enjoy competitive edge over their competitors. So a PSIR student is not just bound to score good marks in the optional, is also bound to score very well in the GS papers and the essay paper. When you take up PSIR, you are not targeting 500 marks of the optional. In fact, you are targeting 1000 plus marks. Why 1000 plus marks? Because there is overlapping between the PSIR syllabus and essay paper. There's overlapping between PSIR syllabus and GS paper 1, 2, 3, and 4. Multiple questions in the interview also, trust me, would be related to domestic politics and international politics. So at all the stages of the examination, PSIR will help you. Therefore, PSIR candidate would target 1000 plus marks, not just 500 marks of the optional. So somebody who's done very well and have prepared PSIR very, very seriously, as a serious candidate, will definitely get edge in the GS papers also. And that is the reason why the overall, marks gets propelled, they increase because of your PSIR background, which acts as a catalyst for your selection. And that is how the names of PSIR students, very often than not, you would find them in the final selected candidates of UPSC, the final meritorious list, which is released by the UPSC. So this is one big reason for its success. A lot of students, they have this doubt at times that PSIR syllabus is very vast. It is a subject which has vast syllabus. Yes, I agree with that, students. It has a vast syllabus. But that vast syllabus, if you are willing to go through that grill, it will give you advantage in GS papers and essay paper also. So that is the reason why it has high success rate. Because PSIR students, they do not restrict themselves to optional papers. They also are able to prepare GS topics as well. So the vastness of the syllabus, the comprehensiveness of the PSIR syllabus helps them in other aspects of the examination also. And that is the reason why it has high success rate. In fact, I can briefly help you understand also the convergence which PSIR syllabus has with the GS syllabus. So if you look at GS paper 1 of the mains examination, these topics which I've listed here for you, these are topics from GS paper 1 of the mains examination. And all these topics are covered in much detail in the PSIR syllabus. Freedom struggle is there in PSIR syllabus, PSIR paper 1, section B. You have this topic there. Also, post-independence consolidation, post-independence history of India's political system is also there in the PSIR syllabus. Also, these topics, colonization, decolonization, philosophies like communism, capitalism, socialism, these are there in the GS paper 1 syllabus. And this is an intrinsic part of the PSIR syllabus. PSIR students, they develop great deal of expertise on all these topics which you find in this GS paper 1. Also, the role of women issues, women rights, developmental issues related with women, the entire theory of feminism, which talks about how to fight against patriarchy, how to uphold rights of the women, how to ensure women empowerment. This is taught in PSIR classes. And therefore, PSIR students, they are naturally able to do very well in this particular topic also. Globalization. Globalization is mentioned in PSIR paper 2 syllabus. It's one of the most important topics of PSIR paper 2. PSIR students, they develop a great deal of expertise over this topic of globalization. And that is the reason why they would also score good in GS exam as well. Because questions on globalization are asked in the GS paper as well. And in the PSIR paper today itself, I've just seen the paper. There was a PSIR paper today, the mains examination held, and there was globalization questions in PSIR paper 2. And the same topic, globalization, is there in GS paper 1 as well. And then you see the overlapping is there. Then also these topics, social empowerment, communalism, regionalism, secularism, these are there in GS paper 1. There were questions on secularism in the GS papers this year. And PSIR students, they develop expertise over all these, liberal political values like secularism. And also, these philosophies like communalism and also regionalism, that this is something which is done in PSIR syllabus as well. So you see a lot of topics, all these topics which are found in GS paper 1, they overlap with the PSIR syllabus. Then the entire GS paper 2 students, the entire GS paper 2, excluding some governance and social justice issues, are there in the PSIR syllabus. The entire GS paper 2, except the certain social issues and governance issues. Two major components of GS paper 2 is Indian polity and international relations. And Indian polity and international relations are topics which are there in the PSIR syllabus as well. So naturally, PSIR students, they score very good marks in GS paper 2. Then GS paper 3 also, there are multiple topics in GS paper 3 which would overlap with PSIR syllabus. For example, you have the topic of land reforms, which is there in the PSIR topic as well. In the PSIR syllabus also effects of liberalization. What is liberalization? What is liberalism? What is the impact of liberalization on society, on economy? A detailed study of this is done in PSIR classes. And you have that in GSA as well. Also, issues related to environmental damage, topics related to environmental preservation, the politics of environmental negotiations, the adverse impacts of environmental degradation. All of this is discussed in PSIR in much detail. International climate change negotiations, environmental negotiations, in much detail. This is discussed in PSIR. It's part of the PSIR syllabus, and you have that in GS paper 3 as well. Then also, the security threats, external security, internal security. This is there in GS paper 3. And security is one of the most important topics in PSIR paper 2 syllabus. National security. What is security? What are different approaches to study security and to establish national security? Detailed study is done. And what is the impact of non-state actors on security of a state? All this, which is there in the GS, you also find in your PSIR syllabus. So there's multiple topics which are there in GS paper 3 also overlap with PSIR syllabus. Then students, GS paper 4. GS paper 4, I'm sure you must be very well aware, is about ethics. And this paper also, PSIR students are bound to do very well in this paper. Because now to write good answers in GS paper 4, you need, viewpoints of moral thinkers and philosophers of not just India, but all over the world. Views of Gandhi, views of Aurobindo, views of Rabindranath Tagore, views of Ambedkar, Plato, Aristotle. All these thinkers, these great philosophers of the Western world and the Indian society, they would grade their views, their contribution to the subject will greatly help you in writing answers in the ethics paper. So this is what you do in ethics paper also. There have been direct questions in the ethics paper on views of Gandhi and Gandhi's philosophy. So this will help you in your ethics as well. And also ethical issues in international relations. This year in the GS paper 4, there was a question on ethical considerations of maintaining peace in the world. And this is exactly what we do in the IR classes in the PSIR syllabus. Idealism, the approach of idealism, ethical considerations to maintain international peace. So that these PSIR topics, they overlap with your GS paper 4 also, ethics paper as well. And the essay paper also. When you look at the essay paper, every year you get 8 topics to write an essay. And at least 1 or 2 topics every year is related to concepts which we study in political science and international relations. So naturally, PSIR students are bound to do well in your essay paper as well. So this will help you understand how students, there is a great deal of overlapping between the PSIR syllabus and the GS and the essay syllabus. Therefore, naturally, the PSIR students, they get a competitive edge in these papers also. And their overall score goes up, which acts as a catalyst for the selection. This is the reason, students, why PSIR is such a popular choice. This is the reason why PSIR students are bound to do well. And I would also, students, like to have a brief discussion with you, just an overview discussion about the syllabus. PSIR paper 1. PSIR paper 1 is about political theory and thought and Indian government and politics. The optional syllabus, students, in optional you have 2 papers, paper 1 and paper 2. And both paper 1 and paper 2 are further divided into section A and section B. Paper 1 section A, paper 1 section B, paper 2 section A, and paper 2 section B. So basically, the syllabus would have 4 components. And we shall discuss all these. When we talk about section A of PSIR paper 1, it's about political theory. What is politics? What do we understand by politics? Politics is a master science. So all such questions are discussed here. What is political theory, meaning and approaches? Then also theories of the state. What is state? Any political entity which has 4 features, sovereignty, territory, population, and government, is described as a state, like the Indian state. So how state formation has happened in the world? What has been the purpose of the state? Different approaches to study state. Liberal approach, Marxist approach, post-colonial approach, feminist approach. So this is there in the syllabus. Then, like I told you, whatever you read in the preamble of the Constitution of India, you would see that those concepts are mentioned in the PSIR syllabus. What is justice? What is social justice, economic justice? How can you ensure justice in the society? Different theories on justice. What do you mean by equality? What is the meaning of equality? How do you ensure equality? What is the purpose of affirmative action? And what is the position of affirmative action in the context of equality? Different theories of the concept of equality, that is also there. Rights. The rights, a democracy is not possible without rights, basic human rights. We have fundamental rights, directive principles of state policy in India's constitution, which are basically human rights. So what are rights? Different theories of rights. And that is also there in the syllabus. Democracy. Democracy, a democratic political system. How democratic political systems in the world has emerged. What are different types of democracy? What are different theories of democracy? That is also there in the syllabus here. Then also concept of power. What do you mean by power? What do you mean by hegemony, dominance? What do you mean by ideology, legitimacy? In terms of state power, in terms of political concepts, this is also there in the syllabus. Then also political ideologies. What is the ideology of liberalism, socialism, Marxism, fascism? You have heard about fascism, the ideology of Adolf Hitler and Mussolini, fascism and Nazism. Also Gandhism, feminism, all these ideologies. And you would see all these are there in the GS syllabus also, these topics. These ideologies and philosophies are there in the GS syllabus as well. So this is your PSIR paper section A. And paper 1 section A. In paper 1 section A, you also have chapters on thought. Western political thought and Indian political thought. Thought, that means views of the Western philosophers and views of the Indian philosophers. Western philosophers like Plato, Aristotle, Machiavelli, Hobbes, Locke, J.S. Mill, Marx, Gramsci, Hannah Arendt, they are in the syllabus. And I'm telling you, students, this knowledge of Western political thought and Indian political thought, views of Kautilya, Dharmashastra, Arthashastra, Buddhist traditions, Sir Syed Ahmad Khan, Aurobindo, Gandhi, Ambedkar, M.N. Roy. This knowledge about Indian philosophers and Western philosophers will greatly help you in your GS paper 4 ethics paper. And this is in your PSIR paper 1 section A. So this is your PSIR paper 1 section A, theory and thought. Now PSIR paper 1 section B is what? Indian government and politics. This is your GS paper 2. In your GS paper 2, you have topics related to Indian polity. And Indian government and politics is also part of your PSIR syllabus. PSIR paper 1 section B is Indian government and politics. There's a chapter on Indian nationalism. How did we get our freedom? What was the entire national movement? The nature of the movement, how, different theoretical perspectives on that also, liberal perspective on a national movement, Marxist perspective, the Dalit perspective, radical humanist perspective, socialist perspective, because different strands of ideologies existed during a national movement struggle also. They were extremists, they were moderates, and they followed different political philosophies and ideologies. So that is what also there in the syllabus. Then also making of the Indian Constitution, the entire process which was initiated by electing the Constituent Assembly, and how Indian Constitution was made, what are most important features of the Constitution, fundamental rights, directive principles of state policy, part 3 of the Constitution, part 4 of the Constitution, parliamentary system, the amendment procedure, the process of judicial review, basic structure doctrine, most important features of the Constitution, they are also in the syllabus. Also then the organs of the union government and the state governments. This is what we do in GS as well, but in optional, of course, that will be done in more detail. Whatever topics you can see here, which are overlapping with your GS syllabus, in GS, there is we do study these topics, but at a superficial level. But in optional, we are going to do this in more detail. In-depth understanding, academic richness is required in the optional. And that is what would be done for all these topics. Also, grassroots democracy, the Panchayati Raj system, the municipal corporation, 73rd and 74th Amendment, also statutory bodies and constitutional bodies which are there in the country. Federalism, Indian federalism, how Indian federalism is different from Western federalism, federalism in US, federalism in other countries. Center-state relations. Also, the planning and economic development model which we have followed. This year also, today also there was a question in the paper on planning commission, role of planning commission, which now have been replaced by Niti Aayog. So that is also there. Then also role of caste in Indian politics. Do you think there is a role of caste in Indian politics? Role of religion in Indian politics? Role of ethnicity in Indian politics? That is also there in the syllabus. Then also party system. What party system we have? Multi-party system in India. This political parties, what role political parties in India are playing in the Indian political system? What are their peculiar features? What changes over the years they have undergone? That is also something which you study here. Then also social movements, the role of social movements, women movements, environmental movements in India, farmer movements, how they have been impacting Indian politics. So all these topics are there in PSIR paper 1 syllabus. Section A is theory and thought. Section B is Indian government politics. Then we should also discuss PSIR paper 2. PSIR paper 2, like I told you, is international politics. It's a paper on international politics, international relations, political science and international relations, PSIR. Political science is paper 1, IR is paper 2. Paper 2 is also PSIR. Paper 2 is also divided into 2 sections. Section A is comparative politics and international relations. First 3 chapters is related to comparative politics. What is comparative politics? Comparative politics is the science to compare political systems of different states, different nations. Comparing Indian political system with the American political system, with the British political system, with other countries. This is called comparative politics. And the first 3 chapters are related to that. There are different approaches to do comparative politics, different theories to do comparative politics, which are mentioned here. Then state in comparative perspective, how state formation, how Indian state emerged, and how the state formation in India has been different from Europe, different from North America, how state formation has been different in developed worlds as compared to developing countries, how state formation has been different in the capitalist world as compared to the socialist world. Also, role of political parties, role of pressure groups, role of social movements in politics of representation and participation. So first 3 chapters of section A is related to topic of comparative politics. Then students, this most important chapter, globalization. How globalization has changed the world. And this we study in your GS topics as well. And it is an intrinsic part of PSIR paper 2 syllabus. How globalization has impacted the world, how globalization has impacted the developed world as compared to the developing world, different theories of globalization, views of different philosophers and scholars on globalization. That is also in the syllabus. Then also the most important chapter of PSIR paper 2, foundation of PSIR paper 2. When I start teaching the first classes on this chapter, that is approaches to study IR. Or in other words, you also may say theories to study IR. IR theories. There are different theoretical perspectives which have been recommended by scholars to study international relations. There's a realist theory, idealist theory, Marxist theory, feminist theory, the systems theory, postmodernist theory, constructivist theory, multiple theories, functionalism have been recommended, suggested to study international relations. And these theories of IR is your foundation. Because these theories of IR, you will use theories of IR while writing IR answers. How do you think your IR answers in the PSIR paper becomes different from your GS answers? You have to understand, in order to score good marks in the optional paper, you have to write optional answers. You may study similar topics in your GS papers. We study IR in GS papers also. But PSIR answers have to be different from GS answers. How will you differentiate between a PSIR answer and a GS answer? In the PSIR answer, there should be use of theories. Whereas in the GS answer, we only use facts. So that difference is there. Then also, key concepts in study of IR. This is also these two chapters are most important chapters of PSIR paper 2. They would develop your foundation. For example, if you're attempting a GS paper, and the question is, analyze India-Pakistan relations. So we will write an answer on what disputes and conflicts are there in India-Pakistan relations, what steps can be taken to normalize the relationship. A basic study of the relationship we will discuss. We'll discuss about the border dispute, problem of terrorism, surgical strikes, all of that. But if you're a PSIR student and if you get a question, analyze India-Pakistan relationship, you are not going to write a simplistic GS answer. No. You have to write an academically rich answer. How will you write an academic rich answer? You will have to write Marxist perspective of India-Pakistan relations, realist perspective, idealist perspective. So you'll have to bring in theories. And therefore, this is the foundation of PSIR paper 2, theories of IR and key concepts of IR. Key concepts like national security, national interest, balance of power, nuclear deterrence, nuclear proliferation, disarmament, and globalization. These are also there in the syllabus. Then also changing international political order. International politics, students, is not a static subject. International politics is very dynamic. It keeps on changing. 40 years ago, we had a terrible relations with America. America today is India's best friend. 40 years ago, we were more supportive of Palestine. And we were not having official diplomatic relations with Israel. Today, Israel is one of India's best friends. So international politics always keeps on evolving. It is never static. World order changes. And that is also in the syllabus, how there was rise of superpowers, which led to Cold War period. What was Cold War about, and how Cold War ended, and which we have seen emergence of a post-Cold War era, the unipolar movement in which America has become the hegemon of the world. And now American hegemony is on the decline, and a multipolar world is emerging, and we are seeing emergence of a new Cold War period. This evolution of international politics, how the international politics over the years have evolved. This is also in the syllabus. Then international economic system, which are also known as Bretton Woods organizations. Students, during the Second World War, major world leaders, they met in a resort town called Bretton Woods in New Hampshire in US. And they signed an agreement there to create international economic institutions. And that agreement is known as Bretton Woods Agreement. And which institutions they created as a result of that agreement? IMF, World Bank. Therefore, IMF and World Bank, headquartered in Washington, are also known as Bretton Woods institutions. What role IMF, World Bank, WTO, World Trade Organization plays in international politics? What is their impact on the developed world, on the developing world? Different theoretical perspectives to understand that role of these institutions is also there in the syllabus. Then also, students, of course, a detailed study of a international organization, UN, and also regional organizations. UN, what has been the performance of UN? Whether UN has been successful or not. If not successful, what reforms are required in UN? What is India's role in UN? Also, regional organizations like European Union, ASEAN, SAARC, APEC, NAFTA, they are also in the syllabus. Contemporary global concerns. What are contemporary challenges in international politics? The challenges regarding democracy, human rights. Are you seeing human rights violations today happening in Ukraine and Gaza? And also human rights of Rohingyas violated in Myanmar, Uyghur Muslims violated in China. So these are major concerns. Environmental damage, gender justice. Who do you think are the biggest sufferers of wars? Who do you think, whenever a war is fought, who do you think is the worst sufferer? Anybody? Do you have any ideas? Who do you think suffer the most during a war? Women and children. And nobody is talking about women's rights. And that is also something which gender justice we discuss in IR. Terrorism, nuclear proliferation, spread of nuclear weapons. So these are part of these are chapters which are part of a PSIR paper 2, section A, and section B is India and the world. That means how India is engaging with the world, how India's relationship with the world, India's relationship with its neighbors, India's relationship with Europe, India's relationship with Africa, with the US, with major power centers of the world. Indian foreign policy. The entire section B is based on that. The first chapter is based on how Indian foreign policy is prepared. What are determinants of foreign policy? Do you understand what do you mean by determinants? Determinant means factors which play an important role in making of the foreign policy. Do you think history plays a role in making foreign policy? Do you think culture plays a role? Geography plays a role? International political scenario plays a role? So there are multiple factors which play a role in making a foreign policy. That is what we understand by determinants of foreign policy. Then also institutions of foreign policy making. Which are the important institutions in India which are involved in making of the foreign policy? Do you think Prime Minister's office is involved? Do you think Ministry of External Affairs is involved? National Security Advisor is involved? Parliament is involved? National Security Council is involved? There are multiple such institutions in India which are involved in making foreign policy of the country. So that is what the first chapter is. Detailed study of how Indian foreign policy, what factors are responsible for making of Indian foreign policy, determinants and institutions. And how our foreign policy over the years have changed. Like today in the PSIR paper, there is a question how foreign policy has changed from non-alignment to multi-alignment. How this transition has happened, why this transition has happened. So that is also an important question. Then also India's contribution to NAM. Our first Prime Minister Nehru was the founding father of non-alignment movement. And what is NAM? What has been India's role? What is today's relevance of NAM? That is also, there in the syllabus. So these are the first two chapters of section B. Then chapter 3 of section B is India and South Asia. That means India's relationship with its South Asian neighbors. Afghanistan, Pakistan, Maldives, Sri Lanka, Bangladesh, Nepal, Bhutan. What is our relationship with these countries? Whether we have been able to ensure regional cooperation or not, SARC has succeeded or it has failed. What is role of BIMSTEC here? These topics are there. What kind of disputes we have in South Asia, water sharing issues, border disputes, refugee problems, all of this has to be discussed here. Then also India and the Global South. Last year, India hosted the Voice of the Global South Summit. So what has been India's relationship with the Global South countries? Do you know, students, what is Global South? Global South is the developing countries of the world. Poor and developing countries of the world are described as a Global South, whereas rich and developed countries of the world is described as a Global North. So what India has always been the champion of the Global South. India has always articulated the interests of the Global South, have always tried to defend the interests of the Global South. We organized the Voice of the Global South Summit, hosted that last year. Last year when India was hosting the G20 Summit, African Union was made a member of a G20 under India's presidency. So India's relationship with the Global South is also there in the syllabus. And also India and the global centers of power. India's relationship with major powers of the world, US, Europe, Japan, China, Russia. And what has been India's contribution in the UN system, India's role in UN, India's role in UN peacekeeping operations, India's demand to become a permanent member of the UN Security Council. Also, India and the nuclear question. Why? India is a nuclear weapon state. India has acquired nuclear weapons. So what is India's nuclear doctrine? What is India's view on nuclear proliferation, on nuclear disarmament? That is also there in the syllabus. And also recent developments in our foreign policy. How our relationship has been changing with respect to Afghanistan, Iraq, West Asia, India and West Asia. You understand what is West Asia? These countries, Saudi Arabia, Iran, Iraq, they are all part of West Asia. What Israel-Palestine dispute? What is India's stand on that? Question has been asked on that. This today also in the PSIR paper. What is India's position on Palestine, on Israel? India's relationship with West Asia. Also, what is India's vision for the new world order? In the post-pandemic world order, international politics is changing. What is India's vision for that? So this is also there in the syllabus. So all these chapters, students, are there related to India and its engagement with the world, Indian foreign policy, which are listed in PSIR paper 2, section B. So this is just a brief overview I've tried to do of what the syllabus is. Now, students, I must also tell you that, when we teach PSIR here, what are the things which we keep in our mind? And that is what you should also keep in your mind when you're preparing for PSIR. Whether you study here or not, whether you enroll with us or not, we are always there to help you as your faculties. And you can get in touch with us. And even if you're preparing on your own, you must keep these things in mind. What should be your approach while preparing for the optional paper? So that is also something which I'd like to discuss with you students. So as far as the classroom program here is concerned, students, our aim has to be to provide one-stop solution for our students. Over the years, we have realized that if the students are coming here, they are taking out 6 months out of their lives to study the optional paper here, then we should be able to provide one-stop solution for the students. That means once they've done the course here, they should pass out from the course as end products. They should be able to attempt the paper in best possible manner and no other help should be required. So one-stop solution is given in the form of PSI course, which is taught in Vajiram and Ravi. How, students? First of all, our classroom program, we focus on conceptual clarity and theoretical understanding. In our classes, students, our priority is that we are able to help our students develop conceptual clarity and theoretical understanding, because like I was mentioning to you students, how are you going to differentiate GS answers and PSIR answers? You have polity topics in GS also, you have IR topics in GS also, but you cannot afford to write GS-like answers in the optional paper. If you write GS-like answers in the optional paper, you will get very poor marks. Optional answers have to be academically rich. And how will you make your optional answers academically rich? You will have to use the views of the experts and philosophers. You will have to use theories while writing a PSIR answer. Therefore, crystal clear conceptual clarity, theoretical understanding of all topics of the syllabus is required to excel and ace this examination. And that has been our priority in the classroom. We focus on helping our students developing this conceptual clarity and theoretical understanding. Therefore, we focus on lucid explanation of the topics, all topics, instead of mere dictation of notes. The philosophy here is not to get you into a classroom, hold all of you into the classroom, and then make you sit here and dictate notes for 2 hours. That is not the purpose of the classroom. That is not you will be getting notes, but this is not the purpose of the classroom, that you sit here for 2 hours just for dictation of notes. If you're coming to the classroom, you should get something. You should get something. What you should get? It's a duty of the teacher here to help students develop conceptual clarity and a theoretical understanding, in-depth understanding of all theoretical perspectives and concepts. That should be inculcated in the students. And that will not happen by dictation of notes. For that, an interactive classroom is required. For that, more and more explanation of topics with relevant examples is required. Therefore, the focus of the classroom is lucid explanation of all topics of the syllabus instead of mere dictation of notes. And as far as study material is concerned, concise, well-researched, exam-oriented study material is given to you for all the topics of the syllabus. Many of you may be having this doubt, sir. What is the reading list? Which books I should study to prepare PSIR? Students, there's a long reading list. There are multiple books which you have to study for PSIR paper 1 and paper 2 if you are preparing on your own. But if you are here with us, then we don't recommend any books, because notes, exam-ready, well-researched study material has been prepared for you from all these vast number of books. And everything has been consolidated in the form of notes, adhering to the requirement of the examination. So these notes will be given to you in each and every class in the form of typed handouts. These notes would be given to you in each and every lecture for all the topics of syllabus. And trust me, students, the notes would be more than sufficient to attempt all the questions in the examination. And in the classroom, the entire focus will be to discuss those notes and help you understand help you develop conceptual and theoretical understanding regarding the topics. So exam-ready, well-researched, concise study material adhering to the requirement of the exam is provided to you for all the topics of the syllabus. And therefore, students, we don't recommend students to go and buy those books and read all those multiple dozens of books to prepare PSIR, because notes have been prepared on the basis of this review of literature we have done. Multiple resources we have consulted to prepare exam-ready study material, which would adhere to the requirement of the examination. You must know the requirement, students. 150 words you have to write, or 250 words you have to write in your answers. If you are reading, for example, a book, 200 pages on secularism, what are you going to do with those 200 pages when you are only supposed to write 200 words? So notes have to be exam ready. They must adhere to the requirement of the examination. You understand, our purpose is to make you understand the concepts. And when you revise the notes, you should be able to reproduce the same notes in the examination. That is the purpose of notes. Otherwise, it's very easy to tell you to go buy books and read. But these are bulky books. And those books are not written keeping in mind the requirements of the UPSC exam. These are books which are taught in colleges and universities, in BA and MA programs. So there is a need to concise the material. Whatever material is available there, to concise that in a format which would be adhering to the requirement of the examination, which we do here by giving these notes for all the topics to you. Also, students, one thing I'll have to tell you, that only those students succeed in this examination, the ones who are not reactive but proactive. You know what is the difference between proactive and reactive? Reactive is somebody when you wait for the disaster to happen. You know it is going to happen, but you are waiting for it. Let it happen. Let it happen. When the disaster would happen, then you react. Then you wake up. Oh my God. Oh, this has happened. Let me do something about it now. But a proactive aspirant is who would be able to preempt the challenges, who would be able to anticipate the challenges and prepare accordingly, strategize accordingly before the challenge comes. And therefore, whenever there's a difficult time, that particular aspirant will be able to sail through. So you have to be proactive aspirants, not reactive aspirants. Students, what is the general trend among UPSC aspirants? What is the general trend among the UPSC community? That do your optional classes, Answer writing practice we'll do after the prelims paper. Once prelims is qualified, then we'll join some answer writing, some test series program, and we will be able to qualify the exam. That will not be possible from next year onwards now. Why, students? Gap between the prelims paper and the mains paper is reducing year by year. I remember there used to be a time students used to get 4 months between prelims and mains. Then it came down to 3.5 months. Then it came down to 3 months. Next year, it is less than 3 months. You will get only 2.5 months to prepare for your mains examination next year. The calendar is already there on the UPSC website. You can go and check. The prelims paper is in the last week of May, and your mains examination in the last week of August. Less than 3 months. 2.5 months roughly are available only. So in these 2.5 months, forget it. You will not be able to develop any answer writing capabilities. No test series, no crash course, nothing is possible in these 2.5 months, because it will be a mammoth task for you. Or you have to do GS revisions also. You have to do essay practice also. You have to do ethics as well. And you also have to do your optional. So a proactive student will understand these upcoming challenges. And we understand these upcoming challenges. Therefore, like I told you, one-stop solution. Therefore, our classroom program is not just teaching. Answer writing and test series is an intrinsic part of our classroom program, an integral feature of our classroom program. Answer writing workshops we are going to hold for you during the classes. Every week there will be a test. On the weekend, there will be weekly tests. Then there will be sectional tests, a longer test for major sectional syllabus. Then there will be full-length tests. You will get your feedback, you will get evaluation, and also whenever a topic is taught, for example, if it's a UN class, so if we discuss the UN topic, after the end of the discussion, we are supposed to discuss in our classes all the previous year questions, all PYQs. There's only one book which I tell my students to buy, question booklet of previous year questions. And that is what we discuss. All previous year questions we discuss in the classes. Once we have finished the topic, if we have finished discussion on Plato, all questions on Plato which have been asked in the examination will be discussed in the class. So there is detailed discussion of previous year questions, then weekly tests, sectional tests, full-length test. Answer writing test series is part of the program. And also, then you would get model answers. You will get detailed feedback and evaluation. So this is half the job is teaching and memorizing the syllabus and revising syllabus. Half the job is writing. 50% of your job is doing the syllabus. 50% of your job is writing. Then only you will succeed in exam. I know students who are very good in political science but score very poor marks because they are not able to express themselves in the examination. They know everything here, but they are not able to put it on the piece of paper. So that writing abilities have to be developed. And these writing abilities will also help you in your GS papers. So answer writing program, answer writing workshops, test series, detailed test series is part of the classroom program. In the class itself, teacher sitting here, you will write the tests. Every weekend there would be tests. Then there would be full-length tests also, bigger tests, 2-hour, 3-hour tests as well. So that is very important. So that's what I mean, proactive aspirant. You cannot follow outdated strategies to succeed in the examination. You yourself, will you be able to do everything in 75 days during prelims and mains? No. Qualifying prelims is not your objective, students. Your objective is to get your name in that list of selected candidates. And that will not happen just by qualifying prelims. The real exam, the main exam is the mains examination. If you qualify that, then only you stand a chance. So from the classroom itself, that preparation will start now. So test series, answer writing program is an essential aspect of the course. And in fact, even when your courses are over, we won't leave you. We would always be there for you. If you qualify the prelims examination, you come back to us. Whatever updated material do you need, that would also be given to you. If there are any current developments which have happened, I will give the material to you. Notes on that to you. That's what we've been doing for our students. Whenever they qualify prelims, they call us up. They would come to the institute and say, sir, I've qualified. I now need material for these current developments. We provide it to them. So this is something which is a very important aspect of our course. And also PSIR mentorship program. Faculty members themselves, myself and Dr. Sushant Verma, we both are faculties for political science and international relations. We are always available for our students. If they have personalized doubts, if they are having doubts in strategizing, in studying, in understanding, they can meet us personally, and we would love to help them. We love to help them sail through uncharted waters of the civil services examination. So that is also part of the program itself. So these are important features, and most importantly, we greatly value the time of our students. We know how precious the time is. Therefore, there is comprehensive and timely coverage of the syllabus. Comprehensive classes are done in such a professional manner that comprehensive coverage of syllabus is done, and in a timely manner. Within 5.5 months, that is our commitment, we finish the PSIR course. We don't go beyond that. You may check with our previous batches also. So because time is very important. If you don't value the time of the students, the entire exercise loses its purpose. The entire logic of having the course loses its purpose. If you're holding lectures till April, May, what are the students going to do? How are they going to prepare for the prelims examination? The entire exercise loses its purpose. So that is something also which is our commitment, firm commitment. Then also, students, we understand that there are a great deal of interlinkages between PSR paper 1 and paper 2, and we keep this in mind while teaching. So we synchronize the topics for both the PSR papers in order to help students develop better understanding. And we are going to make the class as interactive as possible, like I told you. And there would be more than 375 plus hours of lectures in 5.5 months to cover the syllabus comprehensively. And updated material would also be provided to you for current developments, which I've already mentioned to you. So these are the main features how you should also keep this thing in mind while preparing. That it's not just reading the syllabus or covering the syllabus. 50% is coverage of the syllabus, 50% of your job is writing. And that also you must keep in mind while preparing. What the kind of answers you were writing in your colleges and universities will not help you qualify civil services examination. Here the requirement is different. So that is how we intend to provide this one-stop solution for our students. So this is the brief discussion, students, which I wanted to have with you, just to give you an overview of the PSIR paper, and also a discussion on the strategy which you should follow. So I think it has been helpful for you. And now I open the floor for questions. If you have any queries and questions, anything you'd like to ask regarding the PSIR optional, please go ahead. Do you have any questions, all of you? Any queries regarding the optional paper? And if you'd like to ask online students, you also may go ahead if there are any questions. Yes, please go ahead. That you have to talk to management. You'll have to talk to the management, the administration. They will let you know about it. Okay, the office here. Okay. Any other questions, students, you have? And also, online students have asked this question. What about the online students? Do you think the online students would also be able to do answer writing? Yes. A separate portal will be prepared for online students also, in which they would be able to write answers, submit answers. They will be digitally evaluated, and feedback would be sent to them. So answer writing would also happen online, just not offline. Any other questions, queries you have, students? That you can inquire with the management. They will let you know. Okay. Anything else? Any other queries? Yes. There are, Ravisha, there are certain must-have books which are there. For example, for theory, you may read O.P. Gaba, Andrew Haywood for political theory. For thought, you may read Sushila Ramaswamy. For, in political system, you may read B.L. Fadia. For the international politics, you may again read Andrew Haywood on international politics, and also the book written by Bailey Smith. And for Indian foreign policy, you may read Sumit Ganguly, David Malone. These are very nice books. So there are multiple books which are there. If you go to our website, you will find a reading list there as well. But then, like I told you, the notes which we will provide in the classroom, that will be more than sufficient. There would be no need to refer to these other books. The notes would be sufficient for the students to qualify the examination. In fact, notes would be more than sufficient what is required in the examination. So there would be no need to go for this extra readings. Yes, recorded classes would be given. Yes, that is given similarly. Anything else? Any other doubts, queries you have? Anything you'd like to ask? There are certain students of our institute, they are of the opinion, they have this query that their batch is clashing with the Mayank says that his GS batch is clashing with the PSIR batch. So that will be addressed. That issue can be addressed easily. There are multiple GS batches which they start at the same time. So you can get a batch changed. The administration would help you in doing that. Your GS batch would be changed accordingly as per your needs, and you would therefore it would not clash with the optional batch. That in administration would help you do that. The GS batches can be adjusted. Yes, Mayank, you can change your batch. The administration would help you and make it very convenient for you in order to do that. So Nihal Singh is asking, sir, I have a problem in writing answers. Tell me how to write. That's exactly what students I'm telling you. It is not something which I would be able to explain 5 minutes or 10 minutes. It needs a detailed answer writing workshop where we will discuss that how to understand. First of all, students, they do not understand that they have to adhere to the requirement of the question. What students, the biggest mistake students, PSR students at times do, they don't answer the question, they answer the topic. For example, if there's a question on Maldives, the moment they read the term Maldives, they start writing whatever they know on Maldives. They start answering the topic, they do not answer the requirement of the question. That is very important. The approach must change here. Secondly, they end up writing GS answers, they are not able to write PSIR answers. And not write academically rich PSIR answers. Like I told you, theoretical knowledge and conceptual knowledge is very important. Also, the keywords in the question tags. Like whenever you read the PSIR paper, you would see their question tags: critically evaluate, examine, describe, analyze, comment. All these terms have a specific meaning, which you must know in order to adhere to the requirement of the question. So all these things you must keep in mind. Diksha, you are any publication in the market which is available, which will give you a question bank of previous year questions, you can have that. Diksha, that's what we help you teach in the class, how to develop the language. Our notes will help you develop the PSIR language and vocabulary to write the answers. No, if you cover PSIR, there would be no extra need to study polity and IR for GS purpose. That is automatically taken care of. That's what I told you, there is overlapping. If you've done your polity and IR in your PSIR paper, you automatically would be able to answer your GS questions also. No extra reading, extra preparation would be required. So with one arrow, you are able to kill two birds. That is what PSIR would help you do. Yes, Ujjwala, that's a good publication. So yes, other online students, any doubts? Political Science and International Relations classroom program, Ravisha. You can call the institute also, they'll help you find that classroom program. Crash course and enrichment course is different. It's classroom program, which will start on 6th of October. Current developments regarding IR, that is also covered in classes. Notes are given on that also. Whatever current events, you read the PSR paper. There's this misconception that the paper is entirely dynamic. 80-90% paper is static only. PSI questions would be on basic concepts and theories of IR. The trends which are there in IR. Yes, there may be few couple of questions on some recent development which has happened. And that recent developments are also covered in the classes. Updated material is given for that purpose as well. Yes, that's what I have clarified already. Answer writing is part of the course, Samarth. It will be done in the lectures itself. Can you scroll up if there are any more doubts? During the course, you will have answer writing part of the course. Test series as part of the course. Can you scroll up? Scroll down, scroll up. I mean, upar jaiye. If there are any more doubts. Yes, Soptic Pal. Soptic says, I have a background in physics, but I have keen interest and willingness to keep PSIR as an optional. Will there be any problem to cope up with the syllabus as I lack the background? No problem at all. When we teach in the class, we assume that we are starting from zero, from scratch. Irrespective of whichever academic background you belong to, you will be able to develop the necessary expertise which is required. And that is how the classes are oriented. And you are all very well aware there are equal number of sciences students, engineers, science background students who have been able to qualify the exam taking up by with the help of PSR optional. So your academic background will not become a handicap at all. Because while teaching in the class, everything is built from scratch. From the most basic, we start and build from scratch and develop concepts for you. So that is not going to be a problem at all. In fact, at times I have a piece of advice for my students who have humanities background. The students who have humanities background, I get more worried for them. Why I get more worried for them? They have a problem of overconfidence. Because they believe that they have done political science in their graduation, therefore they don't pitch in the kind of effort which is required in civil services, and that overconfidence harms them at times. So I, in fact, get more worried for them, and I tell them that you do what is being told to you and what is being recommended to you in the class, and do it diligently. Don't have any overconfidence. As far as sciences background students are concerned, for them we start from the scratch, and they are able to do if they follow the instructions which are given in the classroom. So irrespective of your academic background, you are able to do well. Scroll up if there are any more doubts. Scroll up, yes. Scroll up. Yes, handouts would be more than enough for you. Class material which will be given to you, notes which will be given to you on the topics, it will be more than enough for you for both the papers. In fact, by the end of the course, you will tell us that, so these are also too much, where I'm not able to revise them all. So they will be more than sufficient. Any more doubts and queries are there? Any more online doubts are there? Yeah, basic textbooks, Diksha, regarding polity, you must read, must not avoid that you must read basic textbooks. There's no harm in reading basic textbooks. You must read that. There are basic readings which you have to read for GS. For example, NCRTs. There are basic textbooks and basic NCRTs which you have to go through. That is an essential component of your preparation that you have to do. And beyond that, classroom would help you. Classroom would help you in understanding basic text as well. So when we talk about preparation here, optional preparation, I told you it overlaps with GS. So it greatly overlaps with the GS mains syllabus. So it will help you in GS mains papers. As far as qualifying prelims is concerned, you will have to do the basic. You will have to do basic NCRTs and basic textbooks that you have to do. Yes, any new messages are there? Any new message? Yes, scroll down. Yes, of course, it would be applicable for 2026 students also, Samarth, of course. So any more doubts, students, you have? Anything you would like to ask? Yes, go ahead. Yes. Yes. Of course it does. Yes. Mm-hmm. PubMed, of course, is also a very good optional paper. PubMed, yeah, also very good optional paper. But like I told you, the two criteria which are there, the success rate also you must keep in mind. PubMed has also been very successful. So if you have keen interest in PubMed, you can take a PubMed also. No harm in that. You must understand, no optional is good or bad. You make it good or bad. Your efforts will make it good and bad. Okay, you may even qualify with any subject if you have keen interest in that. So there is no such option. This option is good, this option is bad. I told you, keen academic interest and success rate. If both these box are tick mark, you opt for it. So if you have keen interest in PubMed, if you think PubMed will also help you, yes, of course you can take up that as well. And PubMed is also good option. I also agree with that. It is also overlapping with the governance part of the syllabus, not with other parts of syllabus, but the governance part of the syllabus, GS syllabus. There it will help you greatly. Okay. Yes. Equal. Yes. Mm. It is effective. It is effective. Why? Because like I told you, we had a discussion here today that the kind of overlapping you will have in all the GS and ethics papers and essay paper is not available for any other optional paper except PSIR. PSIR students, if you look at the mark sheet, their marks in all the papers are very high because they get an additional edge, a competitive edge. So that extra time which you would get would definitely pay. It will definitely pay. Anything else? And also, when you become a PSR optional student, then naturally you develop a good habit of reading newspapers, because reading the newspaper is, should be a basic requirement for a PSR optional student. And when you develop that habit also helps you in GS. That also, because anyways you cannot clear the exam without reading the newspaper, whether you are a PSIR student or you are not a PSIR student. So PSIR makes you develop this habit, which would also benefit in your, GS exams. You must understand, there are no jugaad solutions to clear this examination. There are no shortcuts. There is only one way, a very long, difficult, painful way to clear this exam. There is no shortcut to clear this exam. So, these questions that whether I'll be able to do it, its syllabus is vast, syllabus is short. This is not the approach which you should have. The approach you should have is that what will help me succeed. Because anyways you have to go through the grill. Nobody gets an easy way to clear the exam. You would never find anyone who would meet you and say that I was very smart, I got an easy jugaad solution to clear the exam, whereas others made more effort. Everyone who clears has to go through the grill and have to work very hard. Okay. Anything else like to ask? Any questions? Yes. Not exactly research papers, but the academic scholars, the ones who are academically accepted in the field, should be quoted in your answers. Of course, it should be quoted in your answers. Rajni Kothari, Mr. Bhargav, professors who have wide acceptance in the academic field of political science must be quoted. For example, in international relations, you have people like Happy Mo Jacob, C. Raja Mohan, Professor Rajesh Rajagopalan, Professor CSR Murthy, also retired bureaucrats, retired IFS officers, Shiv Shankar Menon, Sham Saran, the present foreign minister, Dr. Subramaniam Jaishankar. So all this, Mr. Shashi Tharoor, who's written multiple books on international relations. So you have to compulsorily quote them in the examination. This is what will make your PSIR answer different from a GS answer. Okay, you have to, for example, if I'm writing a GS answer, I would write, India should not over-rely on unpredictable partners like a US. That is what I will write if it's a GS paper. India should not over-rely on US in terms of its foreign policy. If I'm a PSIR student, if it's a PSR paper, I would write differently. I would write that according to Dr. Happy Mohan Jacob, India must not over-rely on US. India should also develop balanced relations with the other power centers of the world. Instead of putting all your eggs into one basket, India must do strategic hedging. India must maintain strategic autonomy. These are all concepts which are used in a IR, detailed concept given by experts. So we'll quote the expert, use the concept. And that is how it will become an academically rich answer. That is how PSIR answer will differentiate from a GS answer. So you have to quote these experts and scholars to write academically rich answers. And all of this is a part of the program, and this is taught to you in the classes. Anything else? Any other questions you would like to ask? Okay. So clear to all of you? I think all your queries have been answered. So I think this small discussion must have helped you in making a reasoned choice regarding your paper. So thank you so much, students. Thank you so much. I hope it has been helpful. You'll be able to now make a reasoned choice on the optional choice. So all the best. God bless you. Thank you, students. Thank you. Thank you. It was a pleasure interacting with you. Thank you so much.